Access module number 3, session number 2, and this is our very last learning segment for Microsoft Access. And we're still working on queries. So I'm going to take it right back in here in the ebook and go down through my list to show where we're at. And we are currently right on here with creating, well, we're going to get to aggregate functions, but we're creating, there we are, a calculated field. Now think again on a database. A database has to treat every single record for every single field the exact same way because you have a data type and then you narrow down what can be in that field. So every record for that one field has to be entered in the same way. So if you want to crunch a number in a field, it has to crunch it then for every single record. That's why we call this field a calculated field. Now, it's not a formula, it's not a function. In database, we call them an expression. Don't you love it? An expression, which can have constants in it in the formula or operators, the plus, the minus, the times, divide. Or our new one with the two choppers pointing to each other that does not equal. ebook does a really good job of defining it because a calculated field really is only crunched when you run your query. This field does not exist in your database because as data entry clerks tab, enter tab, they're not sitting on a calculator crunching a number and then entering it in. You let the database express it. The fun part of creating a calculated field is it has this magic wand. You're like, wait, what? The magic wand is the expression builder. And it's really a great place where it's like a wizard, but with less hand holding in it. And I do have a little note in here for you too that says this is the magic wand. And you're like, wait a minute, what's the magic wand? All right, now I'm going to show you up in here and have you find this, but first we have to create a new query. So up to the menu we go. Let's hit create, and we're going to do that query design. We'll bring over the visit table and the billing table, which I double clicked on both of these, or you could click on, let me scooch that up, the add. All right, I'm going to just move this over a little bit down because I like to get rid of the scroll bar. That's just my personal preference. From the visit table, we're going to bring in the patient ID. So I'm going to double click, or I could click and drag the visit date. From the billing table, we're going to do the invoice item, or sorry, yep, invoice item. Oh, did I forget to add that one? No, there it is, sorry. Invoice item, invoice paid, and invoice amount. And if I screw these orders up, right, I just click on them, click hold on, and then I can drag them, right, with that black line wherever I want to. Okay, we would like, and let's just run this for fun. Let's just go see what we got. And let me bring this down just a tad so you can see that. I got 204 records that meet that criteria, those two fields together that match. All right, so back to the design view, and what we would like to see is these invoice paid, we want to know who didn't pay us. So that means all of the empty, because the checkbox would mean a yes. So back to the design view, and then invoice paid, right in here, for the criteria, we would like the word no, but this is going to be difficult. And it's because the N means something. So soon, see, it does the suggestion. So I'm going to type in NO, and then it wants now, but I'm going to hit my escape key and then tab, then it'll take it. And it's not a word, so there's no quotes around it. This is like the on or off switch, that true or false. So let's run this and see what we get. And out of the 204 now, we get, as my baby is thinking, 78 records, and none of the checkbox show up. Now, as you have learned good report writing, we shouldn't show that field. We just double checked it, so I'm going to remove that to show it. Now I'm going to run it, right? And now it's much more cleaner. So let's save this, and we're going to put a name on this, and we're going to call it paid invoice late fee. Oh, yes, that's where I'm headed. We're going to take these dollar amounts and add in a late fee. All right, to do this, we got to go back to the design view, and then we're going to click in this next level right here where we want a field. Now, what we really want is a calculated field that takes the invoice amount times the 2% late fee. Okay. This field does not exist in any of our tables. It's only going to exist when it runs the query, so we want to use the magic wand, the builder. If I go up to the menu and notice I'm in Query Tools Design in the Query Setup grouping, there, see, there's the magic wand. So I'm going to click on it, and it's called the Expression Builder, but what it does is it helps you walk through this difficult spot. So what do you want to crunch? And it gives right here some examples. But if I see my fields, which I do see my fields right in here, right, I can just double click to bring them on up. If I see something and it's from somewhere else, I can use the plus sign and get into another table. Okay, but since I see it right in here, I'm just going to go ahead and double click invoice amount and it builds it. Look at those square brackets. We have learned from, I believe it was in chapter number 3. One of the rules when we name our fields, there are certain symbols that you cannot use. Square brackets is one of them. And the square brackets is telling the formula, the expression, that this is a field and not a word. So we're telling it, go to this field, times it with an asterisk, and we want to times it by 0.02. All right, I'm going to hit OK. Now it puts it right in here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see a little more in here. And it says expression 1, colon, and then there it goes and it crunches it. It's not from any table. All right, let's run it, see what we got. Oh, there it is. So if I grab the calculator and take 325 times 0.02, this is what I'm going to get. But it's ugly looking. And how do I change that expression 1? All right, back to the design view. Whatever is in front of that colon is what's going to represent this calculated field. So I got to be careful. Keep the colon there, and let's call this late fee. Okay, late fee is good. Now, what about a caption? Well, I don't see it here, and I can't get into it because it's not a table. So inside this query, we have the property sheet. So in the show high grouping, I'm going to hit the property sheet. I am currently on late fee right here. So then right in this caption, we can call this one, how about 2% late fee, right? We can change the format. I'm going to hit that drop down there. Let's put a little currency on that one. Does that sound good? And then let's run it, see how it looks. Oh, look at that. See how that's a user friendly with the caption? But yet you still, you still can do that, which I love that. All right, do we need to save this one? I think we already saved it, or we already put the name on it. So we're just going to hit save on that, and then we're going to go ahead and close it. Next topic, back to the ebook we go. I'm going to go back to the table of contents and scroll down to the bottom, and we are on aggregate functions. Aggregate functions is something we will use in SQL, and it's all about this idea of grouping and summarizing. So we're going to group and summarize here with having access to the work. Then we're going to group and summarize in SQL by coding it. And then we're going to group and summarize in Microsoft Excel at the end of the semester in our Power Pivot, because I want to show that software can do the work for us, because we do have a chapter on business intelligence and data analytics. So as I scroll on down here, there are certain functions that you can do an aggregate with. And our book is showing us the average, the count, the max, the min, and then this last one, which is hard to see, which is the sum. Now, they only support certain types of data types, so we have to be careful if this is a field that we want to group and summarize, but yet it's not this data type, well, guess what? We can't do that. Okay. All right, let's go back to Access and give this a try. We are going to create, first we're going to see the down and dirty way. I call this the down and dirty because it's a very easy way, kind of like in Microsoft Excel when we do a outline view. So it's a grouping. So you can insert these groups if it's not a table. This is the same idea. So we're going to open up the billing table. And let's say that we want some subtotals in here, but yet we know that you can't usually get that because this is a table. Well, we have this feature of totals. So I'm just going to scroll down to the very bottom so you can see the bottom without it first. And there's nothing there. It's ready for a new record. And then once I click on that total button, now we have a new line in here. And then if I go to the invoice mount, which is odd, but you have to click on it first, hit the drop down, and now I can get a sum. You see why I call that down and dirty? It's a total row. It features and it works like an aggregate, but yet remember, this is a table, right? This is not something that we would print. All right, I'm going to remove my total and close the billing table. Nope, I don't want to save any of my changes. And now let's do the same idea of grouping and summarizing in a query. Up to the menu we go, click on Create and Query Design. I'm going to close that property sheet because that's a whole nother chapter. There's so much more we can do inside of here. All right. Oh, doesn't like me to do that yet. So I'm going to stay over here. We're going to bring in the billing table, and that's all we need to do. So I'm going to hit close that property. Just kind of bring this one over and get rid of that scroll. Now this is going to feel very odd. What we would like is that we would like to question the billing table, and we would like the min, the max, and then the average for everything that we've billed ever in this table, ever in this database. Okay, so it's a group and summarize. So I want us to add in the invoice amount 1, 2, 3 times, which I know that seems really weird. Now in the show hide grouping in here, we also have the total button. Now look what happens over here on the left side once I click on it. Okay, see how the total came in there and it's called, sure enough, group by. I know, group by. Okay, so the first one, this group by, we're going to click on it, hit the drop down, and then what would we like? I'm going to say min, and then the next one, I'm just going to say max. And the next one, I'm going to say average. Sound good? All right, let's run it. Let's see what we got. And that's the idea, group and summarize with an aggregate. And I did it so darn quick, but without me having to think of what the formula or the function is. So you know me, guess where we're going to go? We're going to go to the SQL and take a look at what it did. All right, let me make this a little bit bigger. All right, click off of that. So it says select. Now to tell it to do the aggregate in a programming language of SQL, we have to say the aggregate. So select the minimum, go to that table, find this as, and then we can put, kind of think of it as a caption. Do you want it to be called something else, right? So, and then comma, and then what do I want to do? Find the max of this field from this table and give it a name, right? Average from this table with this field as no comma from, and then tell me what table I want it from. Now we will do this in chapter number 7 with an aggregate on that. All right, let's go back to the design view. How do we get the names just a little bit better? Now, we know we can put in that colon, so I'm going to go right in front of the colon and say min, and then colon, right in front of invoice mount, and say max, and then colon. And again, right in front of that baby, we're going to say average, and then colon. Let's go ahead and run it. See the names? That's how they pop up in there. Okay, I don't know. Did you? I think that's kind of neat. Shall we look at SQL one more time? Right? And then see how the names right in here have changed? Now, the great part of Microsoft Access, it's kind of like this drag and drop, and it does all the work for you. All right, I'm going to hit save and I'm going to name this one as invoice amount statistics and then hit OK. And then go ahead and close that. And then I would make a report from there. So my report can pull from any queries that I like. Now, this navigation pane can get a little crazy because you can have 32,000 different objects. So I do like this view when we don't have very many because it just puts them in order by the object type. But if I hit the drop down in here, there are other different views that you can use. One of them I did use at my workplace quite a little bit was the modified date. So give me the queries that I just made changes to, and I could see this week, today, last week, and I did enjoy that view too. But some of these other ones are just a way to weed through 32,000 objects. All right, this is the conclusion of Microsoft Access Module number 3, session number 2.